Hello and welcome to Tutoratti kids. My name is Shivani and we are going to be studying mathematics today. Okay, I hope you all are here. Okay, thank you for patiently waiting. Okay, now we can begin with our lecture. So today we are going to be revising. Triangles. Okay, that is the third chapter from our state board, standard 9th. Okay, fine. So before we start, I believe that many people are new here and many people are my own students. So let's try and start with explanation of what is this term triangles. Do you all know what is this term triangles? Anyone? Hello, good evening everyone. Can you please tell me what is this term triangles? Quick. Okay, so this term triangles is made up of two parts. Okay, it is made up of two parts. What are these two parts? Triangles. Tri and angles. Okay, so tri means three and angles is what we have already studied in geometry. Okay, it is what we have already studied in geometry. So basically triangles is nothing but a closed figure. It is a closed figure with three angles and three sides. Right? This is what we have studied. This is what we know about triangles. Right? Now let us talk about types of triangles. Do you all know how many types of triangles are there? Do you know how many types of triangles are there? Well, types of triangles are classified based on two types. They are classified based on two types. Okay, they are classified based on sides and angles. They are classified based on sides and angles. Okay, yes. So let us see how are they based on sides and angles. Sides. Say for example, you have a triangle where all three sides are congruent. All three sides are congruent. Okay, all three sides are congruent. What type of a triangle is it? It is an equilateral triangle. It is an equilateral triangle. Excellent. Then, can you tell me if only two of the three sides are congruent? Any two of the three sides are congruent. Okay, what type of a triangle is it? What type of a triangle it becomes? It becomes an isosceles triangle. It becomes an isosceles triangle. Okay, now tell me, what if none of the sides are congruent? None of the sides are congruent. Then what is the type of a triangle? What is the type of a triangle? It is a scalene triangle. It is a scalene triangle. Alright, so it is a scalene triangle. Yes, excellent everyone. Now we'll go to the second part of the types of triangles, that is based on angles. Okay, we'll go based on angles. Now what if you have a right angle triangle? There is a 90-degree angle present in your triangle. Say for example like this. We already know this one. Okay, we already know this one. This is a right angled triangle. This is a right angle triangle. Yes, alright. Then what if all the angles are less than 90 degree? What if all the angles are less than 90 degree? What does such triangle indicate? What does it become? If all the angles are less than 90 degree, okay, then such type of a triangle is known as acute angled triangle. It is known as acute angled triangle, right? Then what if one of the angles present in your triangle is greater than 90 degree? What if one of the angles present in your triangle is greater than 180 degree? Is greater than 90 degree. Then what happens to such a triangle? Such type of a triangle where this angle is greater than 90 degree, such triangle is known as obtuse angled triangle. It is known as obtuse angled triangle. Yes, excellent everyone. Okay, so this is what we know. This is what you have studied in lower standards based on the term triangles, right? This is what you have studied in lower standards. Now, what is it that we are going to study here in standard 9th? What did we study in standard 9th? We will be starting with, first of all, remote interior angles and exterior angles. Okay, we are studying remote interior angles and exterior angles. Now, what does this mean? What is all of this? Let us see. So, first of all, let's try to understand the term exterior angle triangle. Okay, So now this ABC is your triangle, and we know that angle A, angle B and angle C are your interior angles because they are inside your triangle, right? They are inside your triangle. What does this become? Say for example, if I extend BC, there is another triangle at the outside of the triangle. This is your exterior angle. This is your exterior angle. So these are your interior angles and this is your exterior angle. Now not just this, let's try an experiment here. Is this triangle an exterior angle as well? Sorry, is this angle an exterior angle as well? Yes. What if I extend this side and this side? Then this becomes an exterior angle and so does this, right? These are your exterior angles as well. Extend these two sides and you can see that these are your exterior angles. Okay? So there are around 6 exterior triangles, 6 exterior angles for a given triangle. Okay? Now, an angle which forms a linear pair with its interior angles. Understand this. Linear pair, it is going to be very important property which we are going to use further in the sums. So, linear pair, it forms a linear pair with one of the interior angles. Alright? So, this is known as exterior angle. This is your exterior angle. Alright. Now, we will be talking about what is remote interior angles. Now, we are aware of the term interior angles. What is remote interior angle? What is this term remote? Remote here means further away. Okay, it is far away from the angle. Now here we know that this is an exterior angle. We know that this is an exterior angle and the one that is adjacent to it, it is known as adjacent interior angle. It is known as adjacent interior angles. What about the rest of the two? Now understand this. ये दोनों angles जो है, they are further away from your exterior angle. So these two are remote interior angles. These two are remote interior angles. Now this term is very important when we are going to be talking about exterior angle theorem. Okay, so let's try to remember these terms. Remote interior angles are furthest from the exterior angle. Let's move on. Now here, this is a triangle ABC. Okay, let's try to highlight all the remote interior angles for all the exterior angles. Now here, ACM, where is the angle? I have extended BC further up to a point M. Now this is my exterior angle. Okay, which are its remote interior angles? This is its adjacent interior angle. So naturally, these two are the remote interior angles. Now you can go ahead and extend every single line like that and form 2 remote interior angles for each exterior angles. Okay, so for every exterior angle there will be 2 remote interior angles. Okay, always keep this in mind. Fine. Now that we are aware with the fact remote interior angles, let's move forward and try to learn the theorem. Now this theorem of remote interior angles, what is this theorem? It says that the measure of the exterior angle. Now here we are trying to find the measure of the exterior angle. In the given figure, this is your exterior angle, the one highlighted in blue. This is your exterior angle. Now what is the measure? What does the measure depend upon? It is equal to the sum of. Sum is addition. So sum of what? Remote interior angles. Remote interior angles are the one that are further away from the exterior angle. So A and B are your remote interior angles. So measure of exterior angle is equals to sum of remote interior angles. This is the property. This is the theorem. Alright. Is it clear so far? Okay. So let's move on. Now we'll be studying about, let's move on to the next concept. Okay. This concept is congruency of triangles. Now I believe this term in many aspects has been introduced to you recently. Okay. So let's talk about this term a little bit more. Now take a look at the figures on the screen. Okay. If you try to place this circle on this circle, it is going to be a perfect match. It is going to be a perfect match. Similarly, if I try to put this square on this one, it is again going to be a perfect match. Similarly for the rectangles. Okay, if you're going to place this one and that one, it is going to be a perfect match. So, what does congruency mean? What does congruency mean? Figures having same shape. Now see, I'm placing a circle on a circle. I'm not trying to place a circle on a rectangle. right? So figures having same shape, the shape is the same and same size. Now say for example, if this circle is of radius 7 centimeter, then I am placing this circle on this circle which also has the radius of 7 centimeter. So the sizes are also same. So when these two things happen, then you can say that the shapes are congruent. Then you can say that the figures are congruent. Okay, is this concept clear? Excellent. Let's move forward. Now we are going to be talking about congruency in triangles. Not just all the figures, we are going to be specifically talking about congruency in triangles. Now let's see. I have ABC here and PQR here. Okay, now as you can see, side AB and PQ, they are of the same length. But before that, this is a triangle, acute angled scalene triangle, right? And so is this one, acute angled and a scalene triangle. Okay, so the shapes are the same. Let's talk about the sizes. Okay, you can see AB and PQ are of same length, BC and QR of the same length, AC and PR are of the same length. Okay, so when you write it down mathematically, you write it down as side AB is congruent to, now pay attention to the sign. Okay, it is congruent to side PQ, side BC is congruent to QR and AC is congruent to PR. Alright, now let's come to the angles. This is about sides. Okay, so these sides are known as corresponding sides of congruent triangles. Okay, corresponding sides of congruent triangles. Coming to angles, measure of A and P are the same, B and Q are the same, C and R are the same. Okay, so these are corresponding angles of congruent triangles. Okay, we will be talking about these two properties later on in the lecture, but right now just pay attention to how you write it down and how two triangles are established as congruent. Okay, let's move on. Now we'll be talking about tests of congruency. Now we know that triangles can be congruent. Okay, how do you know that the triangles are congruent? Now we all know that there are 6 parameters when it comes to a triangle. What are the 6 parameters? 3 sides and 3 angles. Okay, 3 sides and 3 angles. But do we need all the 6 parameters to prove congruency? Is the answer yes or no? Do we need all the 6 parameters to prove congruency? The answer is no. Then how much do we need? We need only 3 of those. Now there are total 5 tests of congruency. To see which 3 parameters are we going to need to prove the triangles as congruent. Okay, so the first test of congruency is SAS. Let us see what are we going to do. First of all, let's recall again. Out of the 6 conditions, only 3 conditions, if properly chosen. Now if properly chosen is very important. Why, you will ask? Because there are only, like I said, 5 tests of congruency, and only if your triangle satisfy one of the 5 conditions, then only you can say that the triangles are congruent. Okay, so 3 conditions properly chosen are sufficient in determining congruency of 2 triangles. Okay, now let us see the tests of congruency. The first one is SAS test. Okay, now the name itself tells SAS stands for side, angle, side. It stands for side, angle, side, and you have to consider the parameters in this sequence itself. The angle has to be between 2 sides. Okay, this angle has to be between 2 sides. Let's take an example and make it less complicated. So when 2 sides are included, okay, when 2 sides and an included angle, the angle is included in there, okay, of one triangle are congruent, the corresponding 2 sides and the included angle of the other triangle, then these 2 triangles are congruent. Okay, then these 2 triangles are congruent. Alright, now let us see. In these 2 figures, ABC and PQR, AB is congruent to PQ. How do we know that? Because of the signs. Do you see the marks of congruency on both the sides? Yes. Then you can see that BC is congruent to QR. Okay, again the signs of congruency. Then the angle between these 2 sides, is also congruent. That is, B is congruent to Q. Now this is figuratively. How do we write it mathematically? Come to this side. In triangle ABC and triangle PQR, side AB is congruent to PQ, it is given to us. Angle ABC is congruent to angle PQR, it is also given to us. Side BC is congruent to side QR, it is also given to us. So with this test of congruency, you can prove that the two triangles are congruent. Easy to understand? Alright. The next test of congruency is ASA. Now, in the previous test of congruency, angle was sandwiched between two sides, right? What is sandwiched between here? Now, the side is sandwiched between two angles, okay? This is how you can remember. There are plenty tricks to remember, or you can just go through those, okay? Fine. Now, ASA test. Let us take a look. Take a look at the two figures. Angle B is congruent to angle Q. Angle C is congruent to angle R. And the side that is sandwiched in between the two angles is also congruent. Okay, it is also congruent. What happens then? Can we say that the triangles are congruent? That is exactly what ASA test tells us. Okay, write it down mathematically. Triangle ABC and PQR. Angle B is congruent to Q. Why? Because it is given to us. Side BC is congruent to QR. Why? Because it is given to us. Angle C is congruent to angle R. Given to us. Therefore, with this test of congruency, we can prove that the two angles are congruent. And the reason being ASA test. Is it easy to understand? Fine. Now we'll be talking about the rest of the three tests of congruency. Now, why did we study those two separately and these three separately? Because they were somewhat related to one another. Like I said, something was sandwiched in between the other two. Right? Something was sandwiched between the other two. Now here, nothing is sandwiched as such. But there is a logic between all the three of these tests. That is why we have included those in the next segment. Now what is it? Let us take an example. Now the next test is SAA test. Okay? SAA test. What does it say? Take a look. When a side and angle adjacent to it. Now see here, there is a side and which two angles? Side, angle, angle. How do we choose the angles? Randomly कुछ भी choose किया तो चलेगा क्या? No. How do you do that? So you take a side, okay, whichever side is given to you, उसके adjacent वाला angle. What is adjacent? Adjacent means, sorry. What does adjacent means? Adjacent means neighboring, right? Neighboring. So side and its adjacent angle and the angle opposite to it. And the angle opposite to it. So these two angles have to be considered in SAA test. Is it clear? ये SAA test में क्या चाहिए? So remember this word adjacent and opposite. These two words are going to be important in the next two tests as well. Alright, so we have a side angle adjacent to it and an angle opposite to it. Similarly in the next triangle. ये हो गया figuratively. Mathematically. Triangle ABC and PQR. One side is congruent to the other, which is given to us. The angle adjacent to it is also congruent, which is given to us. And the angle opposite is congruent. So we can say that by the given test of congruency, the two triangles are congruent. Easy? Alright, the next one is the simplest of all. The next one, this test is basically the simplest of all. This test is SSS test. What does it stand for? Side, side, side. So basically, all three sides from one triangle are congruent to the corresponding sides in the other triangle. Okay, that is exactly what the test says. How do we write it down? Triangle ABC and triangle PQR. Side AB is congruent to QR. Side BC is congruent to QR. And side AC is congruent to PR. So we can say that by given test of congruency, the two triangles are congruent. Are you all understanding this? Are you all with me so far? Alright, so let's move on to the next test, the last test and a very important test, hypotenuse side test. Now can you all tell me ये hypotenuse कौन से triangle में आता है? Is this term familiar to you all? I'm pretty sure it is. कहाँ पे आता है ये? Excellent. It is in right angled triangles. It is in right angled triangles. So यहाँ पे what is important? Important चीज़ ये है that there is a right angle present in your triangle. There is a right angle present to your triangle. So two right angle triangles, understand this? Right angle triangles are congruent if their hypotenuses and a side of the triangle are congruent. So basically क्या होना चाहिए? Yes. So basically क्या होना चाहिए? In the triangle, you need the angles to be 90 degree. Okay, you need the angles to be 90 degree. Hypotenuse should be congruent, and one of the remaining sides should be congruent as well. Okay, take a look at the figure. Right angle hai, hypotenuses are congruent, and one of the remaining side is congruent as well. Okay, so that is how you conclude that the two triangles are congruent by hypotenuse side test. Three conditions: right angle होना चाहिए, hypotenuse is congruent होने चाहिए, and one of the two remaining sides should be congruent as well. Okay, and that is all with tests of congruency. Okay, let's proceed to the next topic. The next topic is isosceles triangle theorem. Okay, we are going to talk about isosceles triangle theorem. What is an isosceles triangle? Anyone? What is an isosceles triangle? It is where two sides are congruent. Excellent. Any two sides, any two given sides are congruent, then you can say that it is an isosceles triangle. Then what does the theorem talk about? Let's try and understand this. If two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite to them are also congruent. कुछ समझ में नहीं आया. Let's break it down and try to understand. Two sides of a triangle are congruent. Two sides of a triangle are congruent. तो ये बन गया isosceles triangle. Then angles opposite to them are congruent. So side के opposite वाला angle, side के opposite वाला angle. So these two angles are congruent. This is what the theorem says. Okay? Is the theorem easy to understand? Is the concept easy to understand? So how do you write this? In triangle ABC, side AB is congruent to AC, angle B, which is given to you. Therefore, by isosceles triangle theorem, you can conclude that angles opposite to them, so AB के opposite वाला angle C and AC के opposite वाला angle B are congruent to each other. Okay? Is this clear? Fine. Moving on. Now we are going to try to prove what we saw in the previous slide. So what was that? Isosceles triangle theorem. Let's try and prove this one. Okay? Now for proving this, I want you all to remember or understand, recall the tests of congruency, because we're going to use one of the tests of congruency in here. Okay? Fine. Now let's talk about isosceles triangle theorem. We have the statement here. Okay? Now we are going to first step of a theorem is statement. It is always the statement. Statement के बाद we are going to draw a diagram. Diagram के बाद, while looking at the diagram, we are going to write down what is given to us and what is to be proven. उसके बाद we are going to analyze if we need some construction and then proceed to the proof. Okay, this is how we are going to proceed. So first step, statement. If two sides of a triangle are congruent, then angles opposite to them are congruent. Okay, what do you know now? Two sides of a triangle are congruent. So while drawing my triangle, I'm going to make sure that two sides are congruent. Isosceles triangle बन गया. Now, write it in the given statement. Given क्या है हमें कि in triangle ABC, two sides are congruent. Which are those two sides? AB and AC. Khatam. This is what is given to us. What do we have to prove? Come to the then part. What does the then part says? Angle opposite to them are congruent. So which are the angles opposite to your side? Angle B and angle C. So that is what we have to prove here. Okay? Construction, यहाँ पे we need. So the construction is that we are going to draw a ray AD. Okay, we are going to draw a ray AD, the bisector of angle ABC intersecting side BC and point D, at point D. So basically, I'm going to try and bisect the angle A. I'm going to bisect the angle A, and that ray is going to reach side BC and it is going to intersect at point D. That is my construction. Let's start. Now, are there two different triangles? Yes, there are two different triangles. Now, in these two different triangles, can you see this? That the angle A is bisected, the angle A is bisected, right? So, if the angle is bisected, can I say this is X and X? Okay, you can see this side is congruent to this side already. The angle in between is congruent because we constructed that, we bisected the angle, and this is a common side. Is this a common side? Right? That is a common side. So we can say that the two given triangles are congruent. How? Side AB is congruent to AC, which is given to us. BAD is equals to CAD, that is these two bisected angles, okay, which is because of our construction, okay, and the side in between, that is AD is congruent to AD. Why? Because it is a common side, it is shared by both the triangles. So we can say that ABD, triangle ABD is congruent to ACD, ABD is congruent to ACD by SAS, test of congruency. Side के बीच में angle is sandwich, so the test becomes SAS, test of congruency, okay. And we can also say that, now we can say that because of the triangle is congruent, okay, the rest of the elements are congruent as well. So what are the remaining elements? The remaining elements are B and C. So angle B is congruent to angle C. What is the reason here? Corresponding angles of congruent triangles. Okay, alright. I hope you are understanding this so far. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which is 30, 60, 90 triangle. Okay, 30, 60, 90 triangle and the theorem based on it. Now what is this 30, 60, 90? 30, 60, 90 क्या है? Now, when the degrees are mentioned, you can say that these are the angles of a triangle, okay? Let's look at the property. So, it says here that if the acute angles of a right angle triangle are 30 and 60, right angle triangles, so we know that one of the angles is 90 degree already, the remaining two are 30 and 60 respectively. Then, the length of the side opposite to 30 degree angle is half of the hypotenuse, and the length of the side opposite to 60 degree is √3 by 2 times the hypotenuse. क्या समझ में आया? Nothing. Let's break it down and try to understand. पहले figure. We have a right angle triangle A, B, C. One angle is 90 degree because it is a right angle triangle. Then you have a 30 degree and 60 degree. Mention this, that side opposite to 90 degree is your hypotenuse. It is your hypotenuse. Okay. Now understand this. Triangle ABC, B is 90, A is 60, A is 30 and C is 60. हो गया. उसके बाद, now ABC becomes a 30, 60, 90 triangle. What happens here then? Now, side opposite to 30 degree. Which is the side opposite to 30 degree? BC. BC is equals to half of the hypotenuse. Half of the hypotenuse मतलब 1 by 2 times AC. And AB is what? AB is side opposite to 60 degree. So side opposite to 60 degree is √3 by 2 times hypotenuse. So AB is equals to √3 by 2 into AC. Is it easy to understand? Okay, are you all with me so far? Alright, so let's move on with the next property, which is 45, 45, 90. Now again, this 90 remains constant. Matlab we still have a right angle triangle. What changes is that the two acute angles, they are no longer 30 and 60, now they are 45, 45. Okay? Let's see what does it say. If measure of an angle of a triangle are 45, 45, 90, then the length of each side containing the right angle is 1 by √2 times the hypotenuse. Now, which are the sides that are containing the right angle? AB and AC. So, AB and AC are nothing but side opposite to 45 degree. Okay, so as you can see, now here we are going to use something that we have studied already. As you can see, this angle is congruent to this angle. Can we say that the side opposite to these angles are congruent? Can we say that? Isosceles triangle theorems converse. Converse matlab exactly ulta of what isosceles triangle theorem said. Okay, so we can say that AB is equals to AC, which is equals to what is given to us? 1 by √2 times the hypotenuse. Okay, so it is 1 by √2 times AC. Is it easy to understand? Is the property or the theorem easy to understand? Excellent. Let's move ahead. Okay, so the next topic is centroid of a triangle. Now I believe this term centroid comes from what? Median of a triangle. Do you all know what is a median of a triangle? Anyone? Quick, what is a median of a triangle? Okay, so median of a triangle, okay, median of a triangle, the segment joining a vertex and the midpoint of the side opposite to it. क्या समझ में आया? See, you have a side, उसके opposite. Okay, So a line joining the vertex of a triangle and the side opposite, midpoint of the side opposite. So D is the midpoint of BC and A and D is joined by this line. So this line becomes your median. Okay, this line becomes your median. So AD is the median of triangle ABC. So this side is divided in two equal parts, AD and BC. Okay, this is what is median of a triangle. Then centroid कहाँ से आ गया फिर? How are median and centroid connected? Now, how many medians can a triangle have? 5, 6, 10? कितने medians हो सकते हैं एक triangle में? Remember, what does a median do? It joins the vertex to midpoint of the side opposite. तो vertices कितने होते हैं triangle में? 3. So how many centroids will be there? 3. Okay, so there are 3 centroids in a triangle. And the most important property of these medians is that they intersect in one point. All the 3 medians, they intersect in one point, and that point of intersection is known as a centroid. This point of intersection is known as a centroid. Alright? So the point of concurrence of medians of a triangle is called your centroid. Easy to understand? तो centroid क्या है समझ में आ गया, medians क्या है समझ में आ गया. Why are we studying this right now? Because we want to talk about its property. We want to talk about its property. So what is its property? Centroid divides each median in the ratio 2:1. It divides each median in the ratio 2:1. क्या हुआ? कुछ समझ में नहीं आया. Let us go back to the figure. Now this is a figure. Triangle ABC. AM is the median. Say for example, AM is the median. Okay, AM is the median. ये हुआ हमारा centroid, right? G is your centroid. So this entire median AM is divided in 2 parts here. So the first part is AG and the next part is GM. Okay, if we take a ratio, then you will see that the ratio is 2:1. Okay, 2:1. How do we take this ratio? We start from the vertex and then go down to the midpoint. So AG upon GM is equals to 1/2. Then what if I do this? What if, say for example, I go with the other ratio. Now I'm taking AG and a ratio of the entire median. So what happens? AG is 2, but now AM 2:1. So ये हो गया पूरा 3. Did you understand this? Okay. If I am taking AG and the entire median, the ratio changes to 2:3. Again, now instead of taking G, instead of taking the first half of your median, what if I take the second half? That is GM upon the entire median. Now again your median makes 2:1. Okay, the median makes 2:1 ratio. So ये क्या होगा? GM upon AM is 1/3. Okay, did you all understand this? Now you can form these ratio for the remaining 2 medians of the triangle as well. ठीक है? Is the centroid property understood clearly? All right. Fine. Let's move on. Now we are going to be talking about median property drawn to the hypotenuse of a triangle, of a right angle triangle. Hypotenuse obviously right angle triangle में होता है. So now we are going to talk about median property triangle. Let us see what happens. First of all, let's talk about the statement. Now in a right angle triangle, the length of the median, we're trying to find out the length of the median on its hypotenuse is half of the length of the hypotenuse. क्या समझ में आया? Let's come to the figure again. You have a right angle triangle ABC. Okay, you have a right angle triangle ABC. उसमें hypotenuse is AC because it is opposite to the right angle. BD is the median. It joins vertex to the midpoint of your hypotenuse. Okay, now you can say that length of BD is equals to half of the hypotenuse. It is half the length of your hypotenuse. This is the property of the median drawn to the hypotenuse of a right angle triangle. Okay, is it easy to remember? Alright, now we are going to be talking about perpendicular bisectors and perpendicular bisector theorem. अभी perpendicular bisector क्या है? We just talked about median, we just talked about centroid. अभी ये perpendicular bisector कहाँ से आ गया? Let's try to understand. First of all, perpendicular bisector is if you have a line AM, okay, if you have a line AM, so line L is first of all perpendicular to your segment. So segment AM hai, and this line is perpendicular to it. Also, it passes through the midpoint. It passes through the midpoint. So M is the midpoint of your segment AB. Okay? Then the line L becomes perpendicular bisector of your segment. Okay, did you understand this? So the conditions are perpendicular and it should pass through the midpoint. ठीक है? Perpendicular bisector समझ में आ गया. Why are we studying this right now? Because we are going to be talking about perpendicular bisector theorem. It is divided in two parts. Okay, it is divided in two parts. First, let's talk about the first part. What is so special about this perpendicular bisector? Let's see. If a point lies on the perpendicular bisector of a given segment, then it is equidistant from the end points of that segment. मतलब कुछ समझ में नहीं आया. Break it down. If a point lies on the perpendicular bisector, full stop. रुको यहाँ पे. Okay? So there is a perpendicular. इतना समझ में आ गया? Okay? There is a perpendicular bisector. कहाँ पे है? Of a given segment. So in our figure, first of all, we are going to be drawing AB. Then उसका perpendicular bisector line L. Then we are going to be focusing on the statement again. A point lies on the perpendicular bisector. Take any point on the perpendicular bisector. Okay? I have point R यहाँ पे. This is point R. Okay, I have point R on my perpendicular bisector. This is the perpendicular bisector, and मेरा point R है यहाँ पे. Then what does the statement say? Then it is equidistant from the end points of the segment. It is equidistant from end points of the segment. मतलब I have to join it to the end points. I have to join it to the end points, and I will find that this distance is equidistant. Okay. Similarly, if I have a point P on the perpendicular bisector, and if I join it to the end points of the segment, I will find that these two distances are equal. These two distances are equal. Similarly, for any point on the segment, कहाँ पे भी लो, but the point has to be on the perpendicular bisector. ठीक है? Is this easy to understand? Alright. Now let's move on to part 2 of this. Part 2 is what? Part 2 is converse of what we studied in part 1. Okay, so see this. If a point is equidistant from two given points, then it lies on the perpendicular bisector of the segment. मतलब पीछे जाओ. A point is equidistant from two given points. So there are two given points, say for example A and B. Okay. Yes, the points A and B. So what happens here then? What happens here? The point is equidistant from the 2 points. So P here is equidistant from A and B. तो पहले क्या दिया हुआ है? It is equidistant. And if it is equidistant, then we can say that it lies on the perpendicular bisector. So part 1 में क्या देखा? It already lies on the perpendicular bisector, and if it is there, then it is equidistant from the end points of your segment. Part 2 में क्या है? We know that it is already equidistant. So what we prove? We say that if it is equidistant from the end points of your segment, then it lies on the perpendicular bisector. ठीक है? Is it easy to understand? Did you understand the theorem and its converse? Okay? Excellent. Now we will be seeing these two properties again in angle bisector theorem. अभी ये angle bisector क्या है? What is an angle bisector? Everyone knows about this. So basically, if you have an angle, okay, this is your angle. I will draw a ray from this vertex, okay, and this ray is drawn such that these two angles are congruent. So this is angle bisector. We can say that AD is angle bisector of angle A. AD is angle bisector of angle A. ठीक है? Alright. Now let's talk about this theorem. So again, divided in two parts. So the first part, or the theorem itself says that every point on the bisector of an angle, मतलब पहले angle है, we have an angle which is PQR, okay, and we also have a angle bisector. So angle bisector bisects angle Q, okay. Then what happens? Then it is equidistant from the sides of an angle. What is equidistant? Every point. Let's try to understand this. कोई भी एक point लो, A say for example, on your angle bisector. If you draw perpendiculars from A to the sides of your angle, you will find that these two distances are equal. These distances are equal. So this is what angle bisector theorems says, okay. So पहले क्या दिया हुआ है? The point lies on angle bisector, therefore it is equidistant from the sides of the triangle. Part 2 में क्या होगा? उसका converse होगा. Part 2 में उसका converse होगा. So what will be there in part 2? Any point equidistant from sides of an angle, then it lies on the angle bisector, okay. So पहले क्या दिया हुआ है? It is given to you that the point is equidistant from the sides. The point is equidistant from the sides. Then what happens? Then you can say that this point lies on the angle bisector of the angle. ठीक है? Is it easy to understand? Okay, so part 1, part 2 of angle bisector theorem. Okay. So the next concept is inequalities in a triangle. Now when we started this lecture, we introduced you to types of angles or types of triangles, okay, based on its sides. First triangle हमने देखा equilateral triangle. All three sides were congruent. Second we saw isosceles triangle where two sides were congruent. And what was the isosceles triangle theorem? Angles opposite to these two sides are congruent as well. But what happens in case of a scalene triangle where nothing is congruent? तब क्या होगा? So that is where inequalities in a triangle comes in play. Okay, let us see how do we do that. Isosceles triangle, on repeat again, two sides are congruent, उनके opposite angles will be congruent as well. Coming to the scalene triangle, यहाँ पे कुछ भी congruent नहीं है. All the sides are different. Okay, all the sides are different. So what happens? Now you can see this here that one of the side is smaller than the other side. So एक side हुई smaller, the other one is greater, right? There is this difference. So angle opposite to the smaller side is smaller than the angle opposite to the greater side. ठीक है? So greater side के opposite वाला angle greater होगा. Greater than which angle? Angle opposite to the smaller side. This is inequality theorem. Are you understanding this? So based on isosceles triangle, we are forming inequality of triangles. Okay, let's talk about the next one. So the next one is sum of the two sides is greater than the third one. Sum of the two sides is greater than the third one. Directly let's start with the theorem. Sum of the lengths of any two sides of a triangle is greater than the length of the third side. What does it say? You can add any two given sides. तीनों में से कोई भी दो add करो. So first I'll start with adding a plus b. What is remaining? AC is remaining. So addition of these two is going to be greater than AC. Okay? AB plus AC, I added these two sides, remaining BC. So these two sides will be greater than BC. Again, the same with the third combination. Did you all understand this? Okay? Alright. Next one. Now, property of exterior angle triangle. Now this is not a theorem. This is a property. Theorem जो हमने पढ़ा था. What was it? Exterior angle, measure of exterior angle is equals to sum of remote interior angles. That was the theorem. So property क्या है? Let's see the property. An exterior angle of a triangle is always greater than each of its remote interior angles. मतलब individual angles अगर लोगे तो it will be greater. So here ACD is your exterior angle and these are your remote interior angles. So measures of ACD is greater than A and measures of ACD is greater than B. Is it clear? This is property of exterior angle of a triangle. Alright, now let's talk about property of inequalities of triangle. Now we are going to try to prove these properties, okay? Quickly we'll go through these all and we'll try to prove the inequalities. So the first inequality that we are going to be taking is angles. Inequalities of angles. Let us see. Property of inequalities of angles of a triangle. If two angles of a triangle are unequal, then the side opposite to the greater angle is greater, side opposite to smaller angle is smaller. कुछ समझ में नहीं आया, डायग्राम ड्रॉ करो पहले. So we have an unequal triangle, मतलब उसमें कुछ भी चीजें congruent नहीं है. Okay, then it is given to us that in triangle ABC, one of the angle is greater than the other. So B is greater than C. Let us assume B is greater than C. Proof क्या करना है? B के opposite की side which is AC is greater than C के opposite वाली side which is AB. ठीक है? Let us understand. Let's talk about the proof. Now first, we are going to be doing an indirect proof. Okay? Proof क्या करना है? AC is greater than AB. So there are three possibilities. Either AC is less than AB, either AC is equal to AB, or AC is greater than AB. So in these three possibilities, let's try to prove क्या हो सकता है. So let us assume that first property क्या है? First possibility क्या है? AC is less than AB. So let us assume that in triangle AC is less than AB. What will it make? Inequalities का याद करो. If one side is smaller, one side is greater, angle opposite to the greater side will be greater and angle opposite to smaller side will be smaller. So C is greater than B. But what is given to us? B is greater than C. This is a contradiction. So that means this possibility cannot exist. Next one. If we say that AC is equals to AB, then what happens? Angles will be equal, isosceles triangle, right? Isosceles triangle say the angles will be equal. So even this is a contradiction because angles are not equal. That means the third remaining possibility is true. Okay? Did you all understand this much? Alright. Now sum of two sides is greater than the third side. Okay? Sum of two triangles, two sides is greater than the third one. Sum of any two sides of a triangle is greater than the third one. So draw any triangle which is scalene in nature. Okay, which is scalene in nature. Now, what do you see in here? What do we have to prove? Addition of any two sides, it's greater than the third one. Okay, is greater than the third one. What do we do now? First, here we are going to be needing construction. Okay, यहाँ पे construction लगेगा. So what are we going to do? We are going to extend AB such that AC and AD are congruent. Okay, and then join it back to C. That is our construction. Why did we do that? Go to triangle ACD. This triangle. यहाँ पे the two sides are congruent. So this becomes an isosceles triangle. The angle opposite. So these two angles are also congruent. Okay, these two angles are also congruent. Okay, these two angles are also congruent by isosceles triangle theorem. Now, if you try to add ACD with ACB, ACD with ACB, this entire angle, it will be greater than the other one. Right? So this is what we have. It is greater than ADC. Okay. Now BCD, which is BCD, this entire angle BCD is greater than your ACD. Okay. This is what we have established. Keep this aside. Come to triangle BDC. What happens here? BD is greater than BC. Why? Because we have proven that this entire angle is greater than this angle. So side opposite to them will be greater as well. So the side opposite to this is BD, which is greater than side opposite to this, which is BC. Okay? ये हुआ established. ठीक है? But what is BD? If you try to split BD is AB plus AD. It is AB plus AD, right? But do you know that AD is equals to AC? So can we replace AD by AC? So we replaced AD by AC and we have what we needed to prove. Okay, we have what we needed to prove. Similarly, you can prove it for the rest of the things as well. Okay, are we clear so far? यहाँ तक समझ में आ रहा है सबको inequality? Alright, now the last thing that we are going to do is perpendicular bisector theorem. This is the last theorem that we are going to prove. Okay, so what does the theorem say? Every point on the perpendicular bisector of the theorem is equidistant from the endpoints of the segment. It is equidistant from the endpoints of the segment. Let's try to draw a diagram first. We have a perpendicular bisector. So first of all, segment, then we have a perpendicular bisector. There is any point on the perpendicular bisector P and we have to join the endpoints. perpendicular bisector है, so do not forget a right angle and congruency in the two sides. ठीक है? Coming back to what we have to prove. We have to prove that this is equidistant. So PA is equals to PB. This is what we have to prove. Let's start. We have two triangles. Remember congruency? We are going to use that here. Okay? So we have PMA and PMB. These are the two triangles. इसमें क्या होता है? This is a common side. This is a common side. This is a right angle. This is a right angle. If this is a right angle, this is a right angle as well. Okay? And it is given that AM is equals to MB. It is given to us. So ये हुआ side, उनके बीच में angle and side again. So this is SAS test. Let's try to see how do we write it mathematically. So in triangle PMA and PMB, PM is congruent to PM because it is a common side. The two angles are congruent because they are each right angle. And AM is congruent to BM, which is given to us because it is a perpendicular bisector. So we can say that the two triangles are congruent by SAS test of congruency. So what remains? If the two triangles are congruent, we can say that all the rest of the parameters are congruent as well. So we want segment PA is equals to PB, which is given to us by CSCT. Okay, that was part 1 of your theorem. We'll be doing part 2 and then we'll be done with today's lecture. Alright. So what is this perpendicular bisector theorem part 2? It says that any point equidistant from the endpoints of a segment lies on the perpendicular bisector of the segment. Matlab, again, what do we have here? We have a segment AB. Okay, now here we know that if there is a point which is equidistant, matlab AP is congruent to BP. Okay, it is given to us. What do we have to prove then? Point P is perpendicular bisector of segment AB. Point P is perpendicular bisector of segment AB. Perpendicular bisector के लिए what are the two conditions? First of all, bisect करना चाहिए, मतलब M is the midpoint of AB. That is first we need. And the second thing that we need is the angle formed here is 90 degree. Let us see how are we going to do it. Take a look at the two triangles that we have. Take a look at the two triangles that we have. We have a common side. This is congruent as well. This is congruent as well. लेकिन उसके बाद क्या है? Do we have anything else? Yes, we have something else. PA is equals to PB, which is given to us. Okay. Then we have construction. Construction क्या है? हमने ये line join किया है ना? Okay. Take M as the midpoint. This is the construction that we have done. Okay. So what happens in the proof? In the two triangles, PA is equals to PB, which is given to us. One of the side is common side and AM is equals to BM, which is the construction. So ये हमने first part prove किया using construction. Now that the two triangles are congruent, ये क्या हुआ? SSS test of congruency. If the two triangles are congruent, rest of the elements are congruent. Which are the rest of the elements? PMA and PMB. We are talking about the angles PMA and PMB. So these two angles are congruent. These two angles are congruent. Okay. Now we know that these form linear pair of angle. Do you all know what is linear pair? What is the property of linear pair of angles? The addition of the two angles is 180 degree, right? The addition is 180 degree. So let this be X and X because they are congruent. So X plus X is equals to 180 degree, right? X plus X is 180 degree. 2X is equals to 180. So what will be the value of X? 180 divided by 2, which is equals to 90 degree. So 90 degree proof हो गया, okay, using congruency, and the two parts are congruent that we proved using construction. Okay, so that we can conclude that PM is perpendicular bisector of AB. Okay, that is what we have to prove. Okay, that is the end of the lecture, students. Okay, so let us know down in the comments how do you like this lecture. All right, if you have any doubts, queries, anything, please let us know down in the comments. Okay, thank you everyone for watching, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do that. Like, share this video. Thank you all.